Hello students, today we are going to start with a new topic, that is water as a precious resource. As we all know that water is an essential factor for our life. It is considered that origin of life also happened in water, and the 71% of this earth's surface is covered with water. But the maximum percentage of this available water is contained in the sea, oceans, rivers, lakes, ice caves, as groundwater and in the atmosphere. However, most of this water is not fit for human consumption, and out of this total available water, only a very less percentage of water is fit for drinking purpose, and it is considered as a potable form of water. Now, if we talk about the physical state of this water, so this available water exists in all three common forms of matter, that are solid, liquid and in gaseous state. Such as the solid form, snow and ice is present as ice caps as at the poles of the earth. Water exists in liquid forms in oceans, lakes, rivers and even under the earth, that is the groundwater form. It is also found in liquid state. If we talk about the gaseous form of water, so this gaseous form of water is termed as water vapor or steam, that is present in air around us. So the all three forms of water, it exists at the earth, and water can exist in all these three forms. Now, if we talk about the total available amount on this earth, so all these three forms of water continuously gets interconverted into each other, and in the form of cycle they go for the continuously interconversion, and by this water cycle the total amount of water on this universe, it remains constant. Now, if we study about this water cycle, this is also considered as hydrological cycle. This water cycle can also be considered as hydrological cycle, since in the Latin language we can use the hydra or aqua word for this water. Now, if we talk about this hydrological cycle, so it starts from the river water. This river water, in the presence of the heat caused by sun, it goes for the evaporation process, and by the evaporation process, it gets converted into water vapor. Now, when these water vapor they rises up, so by the further cooling process they condenses and they form tiny water droplets. These water droplets they further take place in the form of cloud. This cloud converts into the form of rain, or this cloud further gets carried along by the air in the form of air current. Now this, when further go for the cooling process, then it forms the droplets, and these droplets they further join to form the larger drops, and this fall as the in the form of mist. If the further cooling process occurs and the temperature of the region is very low, then in that condition these water droplets they fall in the form of hail, or in the form of sleet, or it may occur the cause of snow. Some of this, when this water in the form of rain again comes on the earth, so now this some of the rainwater it flows along the ground in the form of stream. Some water of some amount of this rainwater, it may get soaked by the ground, and it reappears in the form of springs. These streams and springs they further join to form river, and now this river they flow back into the sea. So by the process this water cycle goes for the completion. Initially the river water it gets evaporated to form the cloud, and by the form of in the form of rain or in the form of snow or sleet, this water again comes on the earth. So this process continuously go in the form of cycle, and this cycle is known as water cycle or hydrological cycle. Now, if we talk about the composition of water, So this water is basically a compound which is made by the combination of hydrogen and oxygen atom in the ratio of 1 is to 8. And when these atoms combine in the ratio of 1 is to 8, the resultant molecule, that is known as water molecule, can be represented by the formula H2O. This H2O is found in all the three physical states as we have studied earlier. And if we talk about the mass ratio of atoms present in this water molecule, so the mass ratio is 1 is to 8. Since here two hydrogen atoms are going to combine with one oxygen atom, so we may take the ratio of atoms, and the ratio of atoms is 2 is to 1 here. So that is the ratio of atoms. And this 1 is to 8 ratio, it represents the ratio of atoms by mass. So that is the composition of water, and now we will be dealing with the physical properties of water. If we talk about the physical properties, so first of all we will be discussing the color or the smell or the taste of this water. So this pure water is basically colorless, tasteless and smellless, that can be considered as odorless, and the normal existing form of this water is liquid. So the very first physical property is this pure water is basically colorless, but in the presence of impurities it may show some color. It is basically odorless. Now in the presence of impurities there may be some kind of smell. Pure water is a tasteless material and it exists in a form of a liquid, and the liquid has no color as we have studied earlier. So it is a transparent liquid. The second physical property of this water is, we have studied earlier that this water can exist in all three forms, and it exists as in solid form, in liquid form and in gaseous form. The third physical property of this water is, if we talk about the boiling point and melting point of this water, so pure water, it boils at a fixed temperature, and the boiling point of this pure water is 100 degrees centigrade. This boiling point of this water, as for the any other liquid, we have seen that this boiling point and the melting point of any substance, they get affected by two factors, and the one is pressure, second one is impurities. So these two factors, they also affect the boiling point of this water, and now we will see that what is the effect of pressure and impurities on the boiling point of pure water. So now first of all we will see the effect of pressure. In the presence of high pressure, the boiling point of water, it goes for increase, while the reverse is for the low pressure. If we go for the decrease in pressure, the boiling point of water, it will also decrease. As we have seen that as we go to the mountain top, the water boils below 100, the water boils at below 100 degrees centigrade. This is the result of this kind of relation, because at high altitude or at the mountain top, air pressure is low, so the resultant boiling point will also go for decreasing, and the resulting effect is seen while cooking. So since the boiling point of water is lesser than 100 degrees centigrade at the mountain top, so it is difficult to cook food in an open vessel at the mountain top, and always we prefer pressure cooker for the cooking purpose when we are going to the high altitude or when we are going to any mountain top. Now if we talk about the presence of impurities, how they affect the boiling point, so the effect can be seen as, in the presence of impurities, the boiling point of water, it goes for increase. So that is the effect of impurities and pressure on the boiling point of liquid, and this effect can be seen even in normal life, such as if we go for the addition of salt in pure water. So as we add salt in pure water, we will be finding that by adding salt, the boiling point of the water will increase because salt is working like an impurity here, and in the presence of salt or anything what you have added in the pure water will go for the increase in the boiling point of the liquid. So now we will move to the melting point of the substance, and this water has a freezing point, and the freezing point, or we can say the melting point of ice, it is 0 degree centigrade. This water melts at 0 degree centigrade, and this temperature is specifically at a fixed condition of pressure, that is 1 atmospheric pressure, or we can say at 76 mm of mercury. If the pressure is like this one, so at this condition the pure water will freeze at 0 degree centigrade, or snow will melt at 0 degree centigrade. So in the presence of impurities and in the presence of high or low pressure, this melting point also get effects. And now we will see the presence of impurities, how they affect this melting point. So that is the effect of impurities. In the presence of impurities, the freezing point of water, it goes for decrease, or we may say that the melting point of water, it will go for the melting point of snow, it will goes for decrease. So in the presence of impurities, the freezing point of water, it will lowers down or it will decrease. Now, if we talk about the effect of pressure on this melting point or freezing point, so that is the effect of pressure. And in the presence of high pressure, the melting point or the freezing point of water, it also go for decrease. And the reverse is for the low pressure. If we go for the decrease in pressure, the freezing point of water, or the melting point of ice, it will go for increase. So that is the effect of pressure and impurities on the melting point of water. Now we will move to the next property of this water. If we talk about the conductor behavior of this water, so basically this pure water, it works like an insulator and it do not conduct heat and electricity. So pure water, it's basically a bad conductor of heat and electricity. In the case if we are to conduct electricity from water, then we are to add some impurities, like we are to add some salts, some acids and some bases to this pure water to make this conductor. If in the absence of this salt, acid or base, we want the conduction of electricity from this water, so in the case we are to apply very high voltage for the conduction process, since the pure water is a very bad conductor of heat and electricity. In a normal condition it will not go for the conduction of electricity. Now we will be talking about a very important factor or the property of this water, and this property is this water, it works as a good solvent. This water works as a very good solvent, such as we have also studied that the approx 90% of our body contains water. Since most of the solute or most of the salts or minerals that are required for us remains in the dissolved condition in this water, and this water, since it can dissolve most of the solute available on the earth, so it is also considered as a universal solvent. And this property is due to its high dipole moment. Since the water has very high dipole moment, so this can dissolve a large number of solutes and it is considered as a universal solvent. Now, if we talk about the next property of this water, so the next property is the water has very high specific heat. And the value for the specific heat for water is 1 calorie per gram per degree centigrade. Since the water has very high specific heat, means to increase the temperature of water by 1 degree centigrade, it requires a very large amount of heat, it works as a good solvent in our body, and in the condition when the outer temperature is too high, our body temperature is not affected so much, since the 90% of our body contains water, and to increase the temperature of water it requires a high amount of heat. So this condition, that water has very high specific heat, also pays us, and also very good for life. Now, if we move to the next property of this water, so this water has high density, and the density of water is 1 gram per degree centigrade. Now, if we talk about the specific behavior of water, that is when this water from the solid state, in the solid state we may generally take this as the ice form, when from the solid state it is converted into liquid state, that is water. So generally when a solid is converted or melted to form the liquid state, so generally the volume goes for increase, since the volume of liquid it is greater as compared to the volume of solid. But here the reverse process is like, and water it has comparatively less volume as compared to the volume of ice or the volume of solid form of water. So when we move from the solid ice to liquid water, the volume instead of being increased, it goes for the decreasing process, and it is termed as anomalous behavior of water. Since water in liquid state shows less volume, so the density for this water is higher or greater as compared to the density of its solid form, that is ice or snow. And this water it shows highest density at a fixed temperature, and this highest density that we have studied as 1 gram per degree centigrade, this highest density of water exists at a fixed temperature, and this temperature is 4 degrees centigrade. So that is about the anomalous behavior of water, and this anomalous behavior of water can be explained on the basis of structure of ice and water. If we go to the if we go for the structure of ice, so in the ice these water molecules, that the formula is H2O, they are arranged to form a cage like structure, and the structure can be shown like this one. Now here we can see that the water molecules, they are going to combine in a form of cage-like structure. Here the bond between this hydrogen and this oxygen atom is covalent in nature, while due to the presence of weak hydrogen bond, this hydrogen atom is connected with the oxygen atom of another molecule. And in the presence of this hydrogen bond, it is going to form a cage or a vacant structure where the large vacant holes are present. Now we can see that in the presence of this vacant holes, to arrange these four molecules of water, it required a large volume, and since the volume is very high, so the resultant density of water in solid state is less as compared to its liquid state. When we go for the heating of this solid ice to get the water in liquid state, so in that condition, by the heating process, these hydrogen bonds, they goes for breaking, and as these bonds they go for the breaking, so now these water molecules, they can be arranged in a less volume or in a less space. Since by in the conversion of solid ice into liquid water, the volume it goes for decrease, so the resultant volume of this ice or this water, it goes for increase, and the highest value of density is seen at the temperature at 4 degrees centigrade. So that is the last physical property of water, and this can be termed as the anomalous behavior of water, since it doesn't resemble from most of the solids and from the behavior of most of the solids and liquids which occur in this universe. Now we will move to the chemical properties of water. If we talk about the very first chemical property, that is its behavior, whether the water shows acidic, basic or neutral behavior. So the behavior of this water is electrically neutral. This water shows neutral behavior. It's neither acidic nor basic. And since it shows neutral behavior, so it do not change, so it do not go for the color change of any litmus paper, whether that one is blue litmus paper or red litmus paper. Now we will move to the second chemical property of this water, and this property can be termed as reaction of this water with water. Now we will move to the second chemical property of this water, and this property is reaction of water with metals. So when this water is reacted with a high reactive metal, as the reaction, we get two products. The product may be the formation of metallic oxide or there may be the formation of metallic hydroxide. With the formation of metal oxide and metal hydroxide, that depends on the behavior of metal. The one confirmed product will be there, and this confirmed product will be the evolution or the release of hydrogen in the gaseous state. Such as, if we talk about some examples. So now if we go for the reaction of sodium with water, so by the reaction of sodium with water, it forms two products. The one is the confirmatory product hydrogen gas, and since the sodium metal is highly reactive metal, so it will not form metallic oxide, and the resultant product will be metallic hydroxide, that can be termed as two molecules of sodium hydroxide NaOH. On the other hand, if we talk about magnesium, and if we react this magnesium with water, so this magnesium, since the reactivity of magnesium is lesser as compared to sodium, so since the reactivity of sodium is greater as compared to magnesium, so sodium, it can react even with cold water, while for the reaction of magnesium with water, it cannot react with cold water, and for this reaction make happen, we need this water in the gaseous state, and we will be taking steam. When this in this condition, when two atoms of magnesium reacts with two molecules of water, so the resultant product will be one confirmatory hydrogen gas, and the another product will be the oxide of magnesium, and the oxide of magnesium can be represented as MgO. So now we can conclude, if a more reactive metal is taken, then in the condition of more reactive metal, the resultant product will be the hydroxide of metal. While in the condition, if we talk about the less reactive metal, such as if we go for the reaction of magnesium, if I react water with this zinc, or if I go for the reaction of iron with this metal, so in this condition these metals are not enough sufficient to form the metallic hydroxide, and in this condition the final product will be metal oxide in place of metal hydroxide. Such as, now if we react zinc with this water, so we will be finding that since zinc is not so much reactive as we talk about the sodium and potassium, so zinc when reacted with water, for the reaction it needs the external energy, and by this heat energy this water is converted into steam. So zinc can only react with steam, it cannot react with cold water or even with boiled water. When this reaction occurs, the resultant product will be the hydrogen gas, and since zinc is comparatively less reactive metal, so the product will be the oxide of zinc, that can be represented as ZnO. Now we will be talking about the very important oxide of metal, and that is the oxide of iron. When this iron reacts with steam, this reaction has very less extent for the occurrence, and since the reaction occurs very slowly, so this reaction is a reversible reaction. This iron can react with water to form the oxide of iron, and here two kinds of oxides are formed. One is ferrous oxide FeO, and the another oxide is ferric oxide that can be represented as Fe2O3, and the another confirmatory product will be the molecule of hydrogen gas. Here these two oxides, that one is ferrous oxide, second one is ferric oxide, can be written in the form of Fe3O4, that is termed as iron second third oxide or ferriferro oxide. This reaction it has very less extent to move in a forward direction, so the resultant product they also react to form they also react to give the reactant back, and this reaction moves in two directions that can be represented by this reversible arrow. So the reaction of iron with water is like this. Now if we go for the reaction of copper with water, so in the case no reaction will happen. Such in the starting condition I have told you that only those metals which have high reactivity as compared to hydrogen can react with water to displace hydrogen gas. Since the reactivity of copper is lesser as compared to hydrogen itself, so this copper it do not have this much capability that it can replace hydrogen from this water molecule. And now as we have discussed the oxide of iron, so we will be talking about one more important oxide of iron, that is rust. When this iron reacts with water in the presence of oxygen, so in this condition the rusting process occurs and the final rust can be represented as ferric oxide of iron. The formula is Fe2O3 and it is the hydrated ferric oxide that can be represented as Fe2O3.XH2. This formula represents rust or hydrated ferric oxide, and that is the another oxide of metal which is formed by the reaction of metal with water. So that is about the chemical properties of water.